Heads up! We got monsters!
No! Back off!
Lyria's in trouble! Get to her quick!
How'd I miss a whole...
Granblue Fantasy as an IP is something that I've always appreciated but never been able to delve too far or deep into. The mobile game is fun, but it's a web-based gacha, so it runs super slow. The anime doesn't go very far into the story, and while Versus is great, and actually my main fighting game right now, the game I and most people in the West have been looking forward to the most is Relink, the newly released action RPG. Originally in the hands of Platinum Games, Cygames took over development midway through, which is likely the reason it took so long for us to get this game. Well, after about 30 hours, about half spent in the main story and half steeped in the grind of the endgame content, I can wholeheartedly say that Relink is a solid action RPG that, while derivative at times, ultimately sticks the landing and provides a streamlined main story while still having the depth that any good RPG will have. Where Granblue Fantasy Relink succeeds the most is in its narrative, specifically its brevity. While it's great to have an 80+ hour RPG, often this runtime can accentuate the worst elements of a game, be it the traversal, loading screens, whatever it might be. This acts as a massive turn-off to the genre. Relink bucks this, choosing to aim for a solid 15 to 20 hour main story experience. While this doesn't have the benefit of really digging into each character and spending a lot of time with them, the benefits are easily seen. The game is far less of a commitment if all you want is the story. The story itself is a lot tighter than most JRPGs as a result of its runtime, with a heavy focus on the characters introduced in this game rather than the large returning cast, and the game doesn't run into the problem of recycling content like some RPGs might. The combat in Relink is something of a combination of Xenoblade and Tales of, where Xenoblade is heavily focused on party management and stat tuning, and Tales of is more focused on real-time combo execution and dodging. Relink's customization is deep, with not only skill trees and equipment, but equipment within equipment. Alternate weapons that offer different stat bonuses that you can then augment, and so on. There's so many ways to build a character in this game, and while every build eventually arrives at the altar of the metagame, during the main story it's fun to just experiment and see what works. However, execution is not missing from Relink. The game hosts a massive 20 playable characters, all with their own unique playstyles and skills. From Rackham and Eugen, who use guns to attack from afar and rarely get up close, to Zeta and Narmaya, who spend most of their time in the enemy's face. No character feels entirely like another, and the unique skills and attributes every character has only adds to this. This means you'll have to play every character for at least a little while to familiarize yourself with their playstyle and see if it works for you, while not alienating you if you choose to switch because the control scheme stays the same. Every character has access to a perfect dodge and a perfect block on top of this, making Relink go well beyond the numbers game that some turn-based games fall into. None of this would matter without fun enemies to fight, and thankfully Granblue has a great selection. The bosses are obviously the main attraction, with the large amount of spectacle they offer, and specific weaknesses that lend specific characters a better chance against them than others. However, the small fry are no pushover either. While not always super impactful, at no point did I feel I could ignore any one enemy while fighting a boss, meaning if the boss summoned some adds, I would at least be forced to keep my eye on them. The one place I would say Relink suffers most is in its level design. A lot of similar layouts and a small amount of variety leads to the levels feeling a bit samey over time. However, this is another way in which Granblue's runtime alleviates a lot of typical JRPG problems. Final Fantasy XVI, for instance, had the issue of too much content, so while the highs were still astronomical, some of the sameness began to overwhelm the experience, making it feel repetitive overall. Relink's shorter runtime allows each locale to be fully fleshed out without spending too much time in each destination, as well as the game not reusing too many locations or enemies. Moving past the main story, the end game is where you can really sink your teeth. Ultimately, the goal is to complete every Monster Hunter style quest in the game. While the developers have avoided calling it a live service, it's clear that from the future free and paid content updates, the game will continue to evolve its endgame over time, and I look forward to continuing the grind as time goes on. Overall, Granblue Fantasy Relink is a fantastic JRPG with a short but sweet main story and an incredibly deep endgame. Highly recommended to anyone who actually enjoys a good action RPG. Thanks so much for watching, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you next time.
Don't give us time to recover! Keep up the pressure!
Did that work? It's all okay now.
Sheesh. Really had me worried there.
Lyria! Lyria! Captain! Burn!
Whoa, back up!